In the vibrant and tumultuous, often dangerous landscape that is revolutionary Irish politics, few if any organisations have carried the combined torch of national liberation and revolutionary socialism with such unwavering commitment as the Irish Republican Socialist Movement, the IRSM. Founded by Seamus Costello in 1974, this year marks a milestone for the IRSM. 50 years of continuous, unapologetic, revolutionary struggle, solidarity and sacrifice in the pursuit of a united and truly sovereign Republican Socialist Ireland. The IRSP takes this opportunity to recall the chronology and collective experience of the Republican Socialist Movement, explaining its history, pivotal moments and enduring vision that continues to motivate its members till this very day. From its very inception, the IRSM faced not only intense political battle due to their unique political expression, but also a physical battle for its very right to exist. Seamus Costello envisaged for the IRSM an openly revolutionary movement that would forge into one, the generations old fight for the Irish national liberation and the traditional socialist ideals of James Connolly, aiming unapologetically for a 32-county republic that would above all serve the Irish working class. Costello's visions and efforts were met with immediate opposition from both the British state and their colleagues in the Free State, as well as from bitter ideological opponents of the IRSM in the streets where it sought to organise. The early years were marked by conflict, attempted assassinations and purge as counter-revolutionaries, often supported by external state forces, sought to stifle the new movement before it could gain momentum anywhere. The conflict with the official Republican movement was particularly tense as ORM members opposed the IRSM refusal to compromise on class issues and the national liberation struggle in particular. The earliest sacrifices were made in Belfast, where counter-revolutionaries claimed the lives of prominent founders such as Hugh Ferguson, Donny Loughrane and Brenton McNamee. The campaign against the IRSM then turned southwards, claiming the lives of Seamus Costello himself, who was assassinated on the 5th of October 1977. Despite these early losses, the IRSM stood resolutely firm, blatantly and unapologetically, defending its right to exist and overpower domestic enemies one by one. Attacks from the officials were complemented by the antics of An Garda Síochána Heavy Squad, who during the same period subjected IRSP members and supporters south of the border to an unrelenting campaign of wrongful arrests, violence and wrongful imprisonment in a coordinated wave of physical oppression that occurred simultaneously to a wider campaign to demonise IRSM members and render them unemployable, using media and special branch interference in a bid to isolate them from a professional life. It is safe to say that both the British state and the Free State during this period felt that the IRSM, unlike other organisations within the Republican family, could not be negotiated with or coerced into compromise. The combined presence of the vanguard and the military working class base made both the IRSP and the NLA a deadly threat to both the fabric of the state and the whole generation of Gumbean Irish men who profited from it. The state in this case opted for annihilation rather than negotiation, and while some supporters succumbed to the pressures of this time, most remained steadfast, and this early wave of oppression and resistance forged a resilient mindset in the IRSM, fortifying its principles in the face of adversity and ensuring its survival as a distinct revolutionary force. From the outset, the Irish National Liberation Army, the NLA, widely acknowledged as a military arm of the wider RSM, quickly moved to play its part in the ongoing campaign against British imperialism and displayed all of the attributes of a confident revolutionary army in the field. Many such early INLA actions against British state figures and their forces, while controversial, were seen by militarists at home and abroad as necessary response to the violence and political oppression faced on a daily basis by the Irish working class. Two actions of that early period proved that the INLA intended their struggle to be second to none. In 1976, imprisoned INLA members who became known affectionately as the Red Moles staged an audacious escape from the Long Cache concentration camp. Using smuggled tools, they engineered and dug a tunnel through which they crawled their way to the camp's perimeter fence, which was then cut to provide an exit to the escaping Earps who fled into the night and onto freedom. The SAS had on their heels, but to no avail. The INLA had humiliated the British prison system, showing that their fighting spirit could not be contained. The determination of the INLA was further demonstrated in 1979 with the assassination of Tory MP, arch-militarist and cohort of Margaret Thatcher, Neve. As Shadow Secretary of State, Neve had championed harsh anti-Republican policies and promised a black and tan style response to Ireland should he find himself in office. The INLA put an end to his plans in the grounds of the House of Commons on the 30th of March 1979. An audacious operation that visibly stunned the arch-witch of the British establishment, Margaret Thatcher herself. Alongside the above operation, the INLA participated in a hit-and-run guerrilla attack across the occupied 6 counties and beyond, from the northwest to the southeast, across to England and everywhere in between. For the duration of the Republican armed campaigns here, at all levels and in all arenas, and operations too numerous to recall, but which ensured that the starry plough could fly with pride alongside a tricolour at any time, past, present or future. The H-Block hunger strike of the early 1980s, particularly the tragic showdown of 1981, was for all decent-minded Irish people a defining moment for the IRSP and the IRSM. The IRSM's involvement in the H-Block campaign was not just supportive, it was integral. INLA POWs such as Patsy O'Hara, Kevin Lynch, Michael Devine paid the ultimate sacrifice for their right to be recognised and to serve their time as political prisoners, joining with IRA comrades in a protest that captured the internal attention and affection of all those concerned with matters of right, justice and liberation the world over. Yet the hunger strikes were not solely about prison conditions. They symbolised a broader fight for the recognition of the Irish liberation struggle as being political in intent rather than criminal by nature.
Who do not see the political significance of the struggle within the hellish conditions of Armagh and Long Cache.
And this was of particular importance to the INLA POWs, who were experiencing attempts to both criminalise them from the British state, but also tragically from an element within the provisionals, who would soon embark on an undermined and absorbed campaign that aimed to smash the identity of the INLA within the prisons. Needless to say, all such attempts failed in their overall objectives. The central role played in 1981 by the IRSM and the INLA, who lost martyrs to both the hunger strike itself and during retaliatory actions on the outside, won for the Irish Republican Socialist Movement recognition of its essential place in the wider freedom struggle, which despite the begrudging reluctance of many cannot be stolen from the movement's collective legacy today, tomorrow or ever for that matter. And despite an ongoing obvious pressures of this period, and despite the ever-present prospect of counter-revolutionary attacks, the RSM still attempted and managed to achieve revolutionary change through political means. The local elections of 1981 saw the first ever militant Republican candidates elected to the Belfast City Council. IRSP member Shawnee Flynn and Jerry Kelly were elected in what was a political game changer in the city, showing that the movement could resonate in a political sphere as well as in the fields of military conflict. The victory was not seen by the RSP as an end, but instead as a means to further endorse and promote the wider national liberation struggle by engaging in community issues from housing to welfare rights and everything in between, embedding the IRSM deeper into a fabric of working class life. This was, of course, a lesson that was learned by others in later years and put to great effect. Of course, no authentic history of the IRSM could fail to mention how its determination was tested in the late 1980s, not least with armed assault that was waged upon in 1987 in a coordinated attack that was bolstered by forces from within the Republican community itself, but which more recent research suggests was coordinated by state actors from the wider British intelligence community. These forces, which include former Republicans, sought to dismantle the Irish Republican Socialist Party in a demand that was unimaginable and unacceptable to the NLA. And so the movement faced a relentless onslaught of assassinations, all in the midst of logistical arrests and continuing ongoing attempts to discredit and destroy the RSP. The coordinated nature of the 1987 assault highlighted the lengths to which both internal and external enemies would go to suppress the IRSM. However, through typical ERP resilience, a proven ability to defend itself and strategic political reorganisation, the IRSM weathered the storm. That period of adversity again only served to strengthen the resolve of the RSM members and supporters, showing that the movement knew not just resistance but also plenty about survival against all odds. It has always been a matter of principle and policy within the RSM that no individual in their role is valued or honoured above any other member in the movement. This is a central tenet of Republican socialism. We are all comrades, deserve value and dignity, and we will be owed that value and dignity by our successors after we're long gone. But in telling the tale of both the arrival and survival of the wider Irish Republican Socialist movement, we could not overlook the herculean efforts of the leaders on whose shoulders we now stand. Our founding member Seamus Costello found himself targeted for death due directly to his deadly combination of military skills and know-how which terrified the British and Free State establishment. As with his comrades Ronnie Bunton and Dr. Marion Daly, all of whom were the militant life force of the Irish Republican Socialist movement, who fiercely drove home the revolutionary message in university lecture halls, in the streets, in the trade union and the community rooms of Ireland, inviting the fury of Thatcher and her death squad who violently snatched them from us in June and October 1980. Members and veterans will remember well the efforts made by our comrade Dominic McGlinchey to reinvigorate physical force tradition in the years following the hunger strike of 1981, whereas the resolute insistence of men like Tal Power, Gino Gallagher, that the Irish Republican Socialist Party be defended at all costs, have earned them legendary status in the eyes and minds of our membership, along with all others who adorn our proud and sacred IRSM Roll of Honour.